Hey everyone, welcome to the Bonehead Homestead, where I'm just an idiot trying to figure out how to grow food in my own yard. Today I want to talk about the little experiment I've ran this year, probably since early spring. I have not given these 4 chickens back here any store-bought feed. Why, you ask? Feed's getting expensive. You know, I have chicken tractors all over the yard with layers, so they've still been getting feed. But this is just kind of an experiment. I kind of want to see how they would do. So what am I feeding them, you might ask? Pretty much all the scraps I can find. It's been a combination, you know, we have a store, like a Tupperware tub that's cracked, so we use it for this now, but, about 1 foot by 1 foot, and seems like we fill that up every day with food scraps. We're cooking, it's all the ends of vegetables, all that kind of stuff, or the kids bring home their lunch boxes. If they didn't eat half their lunch, it goes in there, because we pack them with string cheese every day, and if they don't eat the string cheese, it goes to the chickens. And then also, which, a lot of you, if you live in neighborhoods or you have neighbors, just be like, hey, if I put a 5-gallon bucket, where it's convenient for you near your house, can you put all your food scraps in there, and I'll come through once a week, empty it. I've got my sister and my cousin live near me, and they're both doing that. So I get, at least 1 5-gallon bucket of food scraps, and I mean everything. I told them they can put everything in there except chicken meat. I know some people say chickens can eat chicken meat. It's fine. I'm not quite to the point where I can turn them into cannibals yet, but everything else is fair game, and they eat it all. So, they get everything from French fries to pizza to, rotten ends of potatoes we find in the pantry. They eat everything. I have them on deep wood chips here, so at the same time where they're taking all the food scraps, they're turning it into eggs. They're also turning it into compost. And, I did compost with the wood chips and food scraps before, and grass clippings and all that, and never really worked out so well. They break it down way faster than just having a pile of wood chips and food scraps, so... even right now, 2 of them are molting, so I'm only getting 2 eggs a day out of the 4 that are in here. That's still 2 eggs a day off of food scraps, so I'm not putting any money into it. And then they're also creating compost this whole time. I'll show you the stalls on the other side later in the video, but I've filled that up, I think, twice with compost out here. So every couple months, I'll just go through, scrape the top layer off. Still has a lot of unbroken down wood chips, but then scrape out everything on the bottom that's mostly finished compost, and put more wood chips in, start the cycle again. And fertilizer everything being as it is, and quite frankly, a lot of people having issues with like bag dirt and stuff like that this year. You can create your own fertility on your own yard for free, essentially. Why wouldn't you? So anyways, let's take a closer look inside a little shantytown fence here. As you can hopefully see, it's old pallets. It's not pretty. Also have my rabbits butted up against them here, but this was actually a whole chicken tractor that I had been moving through my yard for several years, but this one's kind of heavy and a pain to move, so it's now a stationary coop. Already collected the eggs today. There's none in here, but quite frankly, they don't even sleep in the coop area. What used to be the run when it was a tractor, that's just where they sleep, and they went through all last winter that way, and they're fine. So, there's a lot you can do with old pallets and T-posts. So what I do try to do is come in at least once a week, repile up everything. And I just created these, this pile is more closer to finished, and this area is where I actually do drop the food off to them. And as you can see, they're picking and scratching, they love it. And every time, I'll try to overlay video, hopefully it shows up, but if you stick a pitchfork down in any of these wood chips along here, flip it over, there's a ton of worms. So you see the chickens out here all day just picking at worms, which is a huge source of food for them. And more worms in your soil, which I feel like it's, that's kind of our whole garden area over there. Figure the more worms we can bring over here, the better. And this is the run in here, and they actually just sleep on the perch rails in the run, and they don't even go into the coop. I don't know why, but it's worked out for them. So these 4 here I hatched last year. It's one 3/4 Rhode Island Red, and the other 3 are half Orpington, half Barred Rock. Which I actually really like them. They're pretty, they're plump, they're eating plenty, so here's food scraps from today. And they're gonna kind of flip out when I put it down in here. Yeah, woo! They'll come back. They don't like sudden movements. Yeah, some cheese in there from the kids' lunch. Some banana peels. I'll scrape that out later. But frankly, even paper towels we put in here, because they're biodegradable. And we've put a ton of paper towels in here, and they've all broken down. We put cardboard in here. Then also what I have, in another part of the yard, I have a ton of this comfrey growing. So when the food scraps are a little light, I'll just cut a whole bunch of this comfrey and just throw it in here. That's a high protein plant. Seems to do them well. And here they are. They don't like what I just did there, drop my food in. They'll go back. Then over here, as we cleaned out our garden, there's a whole bunch of okra plants we put in here, a whole bunch of pepper plants we threw in here, which, if we get volunteer pepper and okra seeds from it, plants sprouting up next year, wherever we spread this compost out, it is what it is. I'll take it. It's a free plants to me. And also I'll add all of the egg shells from their eggs I feed back to them. You know, I try to crush them up a little bit so they don't recognize that that's their own eggs, so hopefully they don't go start eating their eggs in their nesting boxes. So the end result, I guess that's what you're all curious about. Throughout the spring and summer, I got an egg from each of them every single day. The shells were nice and thick. The yolks were nice and dark and rich. Great flavorful eggs. The yolks held together well. They were solid large. You know, I don't think any of these birds are really extra large egg layers. I have some production red hybrids down there that lay jumbo eggs. But their eggs never been that good. So, can you feed your backyard chickens without store-bought feed? Yeah. Now, I don't know through their growing years. I don't know when I'll try the experiment of trying to start baby chicks, without store-bought feed. I really haven't been able to find any resources at all on how, or even if that's a good idea. But the main thing with doing this is you do have to, I do make sure they get some protein in there. So, you know, when I'm getting food scraps from other people, I say the more meat, the better. We usually don't have meat go bad so often, but comfrey is a high protein plant, and once you can start with one plant, you can keep splitting it and make tons of it, and it grows really well most places, I think. I've probably we started with 6 plants, and I think I've split those into at least 100 at this point, and I'm about to go split some more before it gets too cold here, and the rabbits love the comfrey. I give them a good handful each every day. The chickens love the comfrey. And since it's also the compost pile, there's tons of worms in here too. They're always picking and scratching. They're always finding worms. So if you create an environment where the worms want to be, they'll come. You do have to be somewhat cognizant and not just give them, if you have all sugary food scraps, that's probably not going to end up too well, but just try to make sure they get some protein of some sort. You have that cheese that goes moldy in the fridge. I know they say you shouldn't give them moldy food. I haven't had an issue yet. Then every couple months, clean it out. You have a whole pile of compost, then you start the cycle again. You have a plan. I know this, sounds a little trashy chic, I guess, but my sister, who I get the food scraps from, she had a trampoline that blew apart in a storm over the summer. A huge trampoline, like a 10 by 20 foot rectangle one, and her kids are old enough that they're not really playing on it anymore anyway. So I'm going to take that, turn it into kind of more of a tractor. So I'm just going to run it just one space at a time, deep wood chips in the garden, and then succession plant garden behind it as I move it. But I plan on not having much store-bought feed in that. Maybe bump it up to 10 birds, see if I can start getting more food scraps or a lot more comfrey. So, at least for a small family of 4, if you're getting 4 eggs a day, that's probably, if you're not eating eggs every day type of family, that's more than enough. Plus, you're taking less trash to the landfill, and there's enough of that in the landfill. Like, I used to go to the landfill every week. Like, I'd have a whole truck full. And now I go every other week. Because pretty much if it's biodegradable and it comes on our property, it either goes in here, or if it's something they don't want, we compost it and bury it somewhere else on the property. So, there's fertility everywhere. You just gotta use it. Then once you get a system in place, it's essentially like free food. So, anyways. Oh yeah, I promised earlier I would throw in a shot of where I put the finished compost, and we'll go to that now. Now these two stalls here are where the finished compost goes. This has kind of been sitting here a while, which chicken manure is pretty hot, so you do want to let it rest usually before you start putting it on the garden. So this is kind of what we do this for. I mean, yeah, we have some weeds popping up in it. We actually had a volunteer tomato plant pop up at the end of the season, but then we got a frost, so it kind of died. We had bottle gourd volunteers pop up out of it too. This year, since I've done this, I've filled each of these two stalls up. 3 feet by 3 feet by 4 feet tall that I've filled up to. So whatever that math comes out to be, I'll show it on the screen now. That many cubic feet of finished compost I got over the summer from pretty much food scraps. And I got eggs on top of it. Yeah, you really have nothing to lose. You get free food, you get free compost. You just gotta shovel some stuff a little bit. Or go talk to your neighbors or businesses around town. Try to get, everyone has food scraps. And tell them. Be like, hey, your trash will stink less. You'll buy less trash bags if you put all this biodegradable stuff in a bucket, and I'll take it off your hands for you. And if you need a dozen eggs every couple weeks or so, there you go. You fed them. So, anyways, please subscribe. I'm trying to make more content on this channel here. Yeah, take it easy.